When you're a child and first start school, a common question adults ask you is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Very confidently, as kids can be, many of us probably replied with a doctor, a wrestler, an astronaut, a footballer, or whatever it might have been. At that time, it seems to be so easy to figure out what you want to become, what your destiny is, and although you don't have a particular plan on how to get there, of course you don't, you're a kid, I find it funny that it's only later on in life that we as adults or young adults seem to step into a state of crisis trying to figure out what we're meant to be doing with our lives. It's a complex issue. In part, there's a very big portion of that pressure we actually drop onto our own shoulders, but there is a hugely societal expectation for us to actually be able to answer the question of, what do you want to do? Or, what's your goal in life? Putting you in a spot of feeling like you have to give your 1-minute elevator pitch every time you get asked the question. Parents and close family have a huge impact when it comes to this, because as a child, you mention you want to do sports professionally or anything of that sort, and everyone is incredibly encouraging and says, go follow your dreams, kid, or you can do anything you set your mind to. Paradoxically, when you become an adult, that enthusiasm seems to kind of evaporate, especially if your goal or if you have an aim that, to many, could be deemed unrealistic, like becoming a singer or an artist in some way, shape, or form. Then you're met with the sadly all too normal and sudden reaction of, that's ridiculous, you need to get a real job, you'll never make it. Between the span of 18 years, the dialogue completely changes from encouragement and allowing you to believe that you can achieve anything, to discouraging you from accomplishing your goals no matter how unrealistic they may be, trying to convince you that you'll be making a stupid decision and that you might as well never try. The emotional impact of this is insane, because for years, your reality has been advertised and you've been led to believe that you could follow your passion and accomplish anything, only to be told that you are ridiculous for even thinking that as soon as you hit adulthood. No wonder that can crush someone's dreams and result in a huge identity crisis. On the other hand, I understand why this is what parents do. As a parent, you'd never want to tell your young child that their dream job is impossible. You don't want to hurt their feelings or make them feel incapable of anything, especially since they have so much yet to experience and so much to learn. But then, when your child becomes an adult, it's easy to believe that the kind thing to do is to make them understand that their goal could be extremely risky and difficult to accomplish. And in a way, that is kind. But the way many parents communicate that worry is through discouragement or outright control, because they want their child to be safe, to have food on the table, a roof over their heads, and to experience the least amount of hardship possible and lead a great and safe life as a result. The previous scenario might not perfectly describe yours or someone else's situation. That's obvious. Life is a lot more complicated and nuanced than that, although I think it covers a big portion of people's circumstances, in some way or another, so please just entertain this for the purpose of the video. So, now you feel lost in life. What do you do? How do you unlose yourself? What does it even mean to find yourself? Those are really valid and interesting philosophical predicaments that a lot of us come to face, especially in this day and age where the limitations for what you could be are not so limited and seem to be ever expanding. As an adult, there are actual and real practical things you must do. It's simply the truth. First, in most cases, you need to have at least a high school level of education. Many jobs still hire if you don't have a degree, but the number of places that hire you without a high school diploma is dwindling. Second, you have to have a job. If you go several years without working and don't have a solid reason to present as to why in job interviews, that could very well cost you some good opportunities. Apart from those two, which are a given, there's some others you need to learn. You need to learn to take care of yourself. And I don't mean just basic things like feeding yourself and bathing. I mean care for yourself as if you were someone responsible for. What that means is, if you were to take care of your younger sibling or even your own child, anyone that might be your family or friend for that matter, you'd want the best for them, right? Treat yourself that same way. Very often, the voice in our own head can be the most critical and discouraging of our actions and motivations. It's often easy for us to berate and criticize ourselves for every little thing, letting that tiny voice in our mind running unchecked without realizing that it just does vast amounts of damage to our self-confidence. Take notice of how that voice speaks to you. Is it encouraging or is it detrimental? Most often than not, it's the latter. Especially because when you imagine that voice in your head, it sounds like your own voice. But how do you deal with that? Well, in my experience, and I know it sounds crazy, but I have a conversation with that voice. almost as if it was a dialogue between that little angel and the little devil on my shoulder, and they actively challenge each other. The reason why this is a good thing is because it's easy to accept the first thought that pops into your head as it is. But if you start to actively challenge it, it's almost as if it's taking away the power of the initial thought, and you come to realize how you truly feel about the thought in the first place. I wouldn't say that this applies to people who suffer from mental health, though. It might help a little, but I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm just some guy on the internet who plays video games for fun and likes to talk to a microphone while doing it. On a different note, your environment is as important, if not more important, to your sense of self and who you think you are, but also your sense of self-worth. On the practical side, where you live and how it looks has a real impact on your mental state. Is your desk, your room, your house organized, or is it a complete mess from top to bottom? Before you can make any meaningful change to yourself, start with that. Start with something small and that you can control. Load the dishwasher, clean a few dishes and cutlery. You don't have to do all of them, but I'm sure you can manage at least one set of them. It might be the case that those might even be too big of a task to start with. Especially if you are depressed, and if that's you, try getting out of bed. Try making your bed and having a shower. It might not be where you want to be, and it might seem so small of a goal that you feel ridiculous and pathetic, but the small steps have a compounding effect. When these seemingly little tasks become easy, then you become ready to take on more, but you have to do it slowly. Only you know your own pace, though. It's easy to fall into the trap of imagining a huge goal, let's say. For example, you see a picture of a person in really good shape on social media and start immediately comparing yourself to them. You're nowhere near where they are, which causes shame, which is a terrible foundation, but then let's say that prompts you to want to be in the best shape of your life, and you go to the gym once. You feel good about that, but then you get home and see that you don't look like that person at all. As a matter of fact, it doesn't look like anything's changed. And then the next day you feel sore, silly, and unmotivated. The issue there is that you could be so focused on getting those six-pack abs that you didn't realize that you exercised more than you have in a long while, which is a worthwhile goal in and of itself, but in comparison to looking like the person you saw on social media, it seems really small. That's why people say comparison is the thief of joy. There will always be someone ahead of you in some sort of way, so focus on you and those small steps, and don't forget to be proud of every single one. But there's more to your environment than just your physical and mental environment. Your social environment is equally, if not more important. I've had a good number of friends in my life. A lot of them stayed and a lot of them have gone. Some of them due to changing circumstances, like moving countries or towns, and others due to disagreements and overall growth in different directions. At certain points, I've made friends with people who have not been the best influence in my life. One example was, when I was around 14, I created my first ever YouTube channel. Nobody knew about it, and I wanted it to stay that way because I was afraid of being made fun of. Long story short, some of my friends from school found out about it, and from that point on, they took the piss and made fun of me for a huge amount of time. I don't mean it in a banter sort of way. I mean it like they shamed me and made me feel stupid for even thinking I could be entertaining to watch, or have any sort of success. Although I was a shy kid and not the most confident, I knew who to keep close and who to cut off. So that's what I did. I cut them off and went my own way. It was hard, and they did keep making fun of me, but I knew better. I knew that I deserved better company and that I should have friends around me that are supposed to encourage or even join in just to be supportive. Another more recent example has been this. Around 3 or 4 years ago, I was focusing on becoming a tattoo artist, which meant that I was building my portfolio and drawing a lot. I mean, most of my free time was going into this. Most of my friends, and me included, were going to university. The difference was that while I was focusing on my portfolio, they were partying and smoking weed, etc. Although they recognized my hard work and talent, one friend in particular was super upset that I didn't do the same things they did, claiming that I wasn't as fun as I used to be. I didn't neglect them at all, but I just didn't want to stay out late anymore and do the things I used to do with them. I wanted to invest my time. Slowly, that caused our friendship to kind of dissipate, and although no confrontation was needed, we kind of went our separate ways. That's to say, be careful of who you surround yourself with. I forgot who said this, but there's a reason why the sentence, "show me your friends and I'll show you your future," resonates so much. You can very easily assimilate the bad habits and behaviors of people around you, which can be especially dangerous if they are not what you want to be like. Create friendships with people you actually admire. People who not only are good friends, but In a selfish way, you can count on and can inspire your own self-development. Lastly, let's talk about jobs and passions. This is a tough one because, as I've mentioned before, we all need jobs. Many of us, including myself, don't have the jobs of our dreams. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm working on it. I like Rick Rubin's take on jobs versus passion, which I very much agree with. There's nothing shameful about doing a job to sustain yourself, even if it's not your dream job. In my case, I do my job and part of that money goes to fueling this YouTube channel, buying new games which I make content on, and buying better equipment. It could be that your passion does not have to be your job. At times it could be even better that way. I've done some of my previously believed to be passions of mine in such a focused and productive way that it completely drained the passion and any ounce of meaningfulness out of it. Now, it could be that you find yourself working a job you completely hate. I've been there too. While I was in university, I worked in a restaurant and I did everything. Back of house, front of house, hosting, you name it. I hated it. It was busy all the time, I felt dirty all the time. The only redeeming factor of that job was the people I worked with. Now, if you don't have anything tying you down to that job, I encourage you to find another one. I know it's not that simple at times. If you do have something tying you down to that job, then please do yourself a favor and hold on to it, and only until you find something else better. Don't quit your job if you don't have anything else lined up. If you can't find a better job because you don't have qualifications, there's so much knowledge on the internet. There's so many paths you could take to upskill yourself. Please research into it and don't despair. Sometimes the road is long, but life is not a prison. You are not stuck unless you want to be. You might not be where you want in life. Much of it is out of your control and might have made things difficult for you, like the family you are born into, the country you live, the color of your skin, your gender, and sexuality. But you can take control of your life. Don't fall into the trap of being a victim. It's very easy and attractive to adopt an outlook of, it's not my fault, I am where I am. Where you are in life is your responsibility. It might not be entirely your fault, but it's up to you as an individual, as a person, to make life better for yourself. Don't wait for your government, justice system, your family, or anyone to make it better for you, because they won't. You can only count on yourself to do the things you need to do to improve your situation. You can choose to eat better. You can choose to exercise. You can choose to apply for jobs. Only you can take control. No one is going to come and save you. Only you can save yourself. Please don't hear this and think that this is a pessimistic thing to say, because that's not how I mean it. When you realize that only you can take actions necessary to improve your life, it's liberating, because you are no longer bound to the shackles of being a victim and of perpetual suffering. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions or any topics you'd like me to talk about, let me know, and I'll be happy to use them for future videos. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time.